Today I'm joined by Brant McNaughton. Brant is the founder of Ecce, and Ecce is a software development studio that simplifies the complicated stuff. So welcome, Brant.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Simon.
No, thank you for joining us. So Brant, look, one of the first things I love to find out is just tell us a bit more about your company, Ecce, and what you do.
Yeah, I guess this is the elevator pitch, I suppose. I mean, we have been going 26 years this year. We had a 25th birthday party, a bit of a boozy one up in London last year. I set up the business in '99. I'd had a previous career in financial markets, starting in New Zealand and then around Asia and ever that sort of thing. I mean, I got a bit sick of the environment, but I was building software, or building creative spreadsheets, and we're pulling in live feeds and data from various different sources and creating arbitrage opportunities. I really liked that, the technical sort of analytical side of things, and came to renew my contract. And I thought I'll go out, give it a whirl, and start up a web design business. So in 2000, it was unheard of. We built our first e-commerce website in 2002 for a company, an ex-client of mine over in Boston, selling furniture.
Okay.
And the business sort of grew from there. We were an all service agency, as you were, but as soon became apparent that one person couldn't do everything. I took my first hire on in mid 2000s. He stayed for 18 years, man and boy, which was good. But yeah, so we pivoted really, or sort of niched down to being a software development company. I guess we go into specifics. We sort of automate a lot of small micro tasks. We also integrate with platforms that sort of help extend their life cycle. We help release stored up siloed data for clients, so they can log in and all this stuff. So it's interesting, and it harks back to the days where I love data and I love all this analytics and this sort of attention to detail. So that's what it is, really. That's what we do. We're a bunch of computer programmers who help businesses use their data effectively.
Lovely. And how big's your team now, Brad?
There's 9 of us. I'm sitting here in a lovely barn in Otford, just outside Sevenoaks. There's 10 chairs and screens sitting around me, but we're all remote now. So I've got a couple of guys down in Kent. The rest of them are up north. But we're all in the UK. We've got couple of DevOps guys. They're all senior developers. They're all middle to senior full stack developers. And I have rehired a guy that worked for me for 8 years and left just before COVID and has come back. And probably one of the best hires I've ever made.
Okay. Well, look, perhaps we'll delve down into that in a bit more detail as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just I'd like to find out why people went into business. And you mentioned, back in 2000, you decided to set up your business. But why did you decide to set up a business at that stage and not just sort of change, roles, moving out the financial, sort of market side of things into, what you do now and become an employee in that area? Why did you decide to become a business owner in doing those things?
I guess, I left school. I didn't go to university. A lot of my friends went off to university. I went straight into banking. And I guess I didn't go to university because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to lock myself into a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year course and then come out the other side and go, what the fuck did I do that for? So I think I've always been a bit geeky, always been into computers and creating and solving problems. And I'd sort of had enough of working in the city. I found it a bit it was becoming more and more toxic. It wasn't fun. Compliance was becoming more and more of an issue. I used to go out and entertain, and you weren't allowed to go out and entertain anymore. That was part of the fun, right? So the city was becoming a shadow of itself. And so, I mean, I needed to do something. And I guess then this was the best option, really. I mean, I've been playing around with websites and stuff for a couple of years, and I thought, well, I'll give it a crack and see how we get on. So started off small, had a couple of clients, and then friends and family, and then they introduced people, and then our projects got bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, as I said, the first e-commerce website was for a friend of mine, and then, you know, we've gone on to build dozens and dozens of e-commerce websites for all sorts of sizes of businesses. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I was qualified to do anything else, Simon. Really? Show me, where was I going to go?
Oh, okay, no, I get that. It's, you know, there's always different reasons of this, and you know, I love to find out why people decided to become a business owner, because it's not for everyone. But as we know, there's great rewards from doing it. There can be challenges as well. But okay, look, by the way, you completely understand where you're coming from on the financial side, because I went into banking as well, and so yeah, what you
early 1986 by the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Went straight from school, and yeah, did a degree when I was sort of working up in London. So yeah, I can see exactly where you're coming from on that. And so okay, let's go back to 2000. You set up on your own. What did you always have the vision of building a team, or was this something that you just evolved, or you know what?
I guess, I mean, I was never really one to sort of look that far ahead in the future. I mean, I never planned to end up in London. I left home at a young age and got on the road, and off I went. So there was no real plan, and there was no real plan. Think about setting up a business. I just wanted to set up and build websites and do all this sort of stuff, and then you get employees, and then you have to do the finances and the accounts and all this stuff, and then you're actually running a business rather than doing. And the more staff you get, and the bigger the projects you get, you've got project management. You've got, so you know, very different from wanting to do web design to running a business. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. You do realize you're running a business, but you think, I mean, I do very little coding now. Yeah, I think I hadn't planned to run a team. I hadn't planned to have clients all over the world. I hadn't planned any of this. Well, back then, I mean, yeah, just these things kind of happen. I mean, better luck than judgment, I think.
It often evolves like that in terms of how we set out. And so you mentioned there about, you know, you don't do much sort of coding now, but what? So as the business owner, what are your main sort of roles in the business? What do you?
Well, I mean, you're asking me, right? Not the rest of the staff, okay?
Sorry, say that again.
You're asking me and not the rest of the staff. They may have a different answer.
Okay. Perhaps I'll ask them another time. But yeah.
I think building this company culture was a big important thing, and I think when people set up businesses, these businesses are generally an extension of themselves, and the culture reflects them. Coming from my background in New Zealand, I mean, we had when before COVID, we were having a barbecue every Friday, and so culture is a very important thing. Bringing the right team in, bringing the right people in. So I spent a lot of time making sure that the guys are happy, they're successful. I mean, as I said, I employed some guy that came in straight from college at 17, bought a house, bought a car, you know, with us, and so those sort of success stories are what makes me happy, and a sort of unexpected side from growing or making a business is seeing these young people get on. So I think, you know, we also spend some time going out and speaking at schools and things like that. But what do I do day to day? I think I spend a lot of time speaking to clients. I spend a lot of time hustling, finding new business, finding opportunities to be able to help people grow their own businesses. I guess that sounds busy, right? Does that sound busy enough to be a boss? Maybe. I don't know.
to be honest, I think, like that first thing that you actually mentioned about the team, and my view is the main role of the business owner, or the leader in the team, because it's not always the business owner. The business owner may have employed a managing director, but the main role is to lead the team. Which is really what you were sort of saying as the beginning there, because the team are just so important to the success of the business.
Definitely.
So keeping them motivated, keeping them employing the right team, keeping them developed, trained, all of those things. That's
definitely. I mean, as I said, I'm harking back to rehiring a guy that worked for me for 8 years. I mean, it's probably the best hire that we've made. That he's come in and given me the ability to step back a little bit and focus on finding new opportunities. But also, the team is important. I mean, we don't have any stock or anything like that, or anything to sell. We're not selling. We're selling our knowledge, our capabilities, and I mean the creativity of the team I have. So we have get-togethers twice a year. So it's an all hands day. We used to have hack days, which we call 5% Fridays, which we encourage the guys to do something off the books for. And so creativity. People don't necessarily think that a computer program is creative, but we're creating solutions to people's problems or people's perceived problems. And once we get in there, we go, well, no, that's not the problem. That's the problem. But just by encouraging these guys to sort of think a little bit differently. I mean, we approach things a little bit differently because we didn't start off as an agency. We started off looking at problems, possibly from my point of view, trying to solve things from a banker's point of view rather than probably a designer's point of view or something. I mean, and I was a bit rambling then.
I get the point. I think a business owner, there's things that I picked up what you said. I mean, one of the things you said, culture. One of the things, as a business owner, focus on the team. We mentioned about leadership. You've mentioned about thinking differently, helping them to think differently. I think be creative. These are all really important things. So, thanks for sharing those. So, what would you say the biggest challenge that you've faced as being a business owner in those sort of 26 years of being a business owner? What's the biggest challenge you faced?
I think the biggest challenge has always been, and I think it's for a lot of businesses, is generating new business. I mean, we partner up with our clients. We've got clients who've been with us for 20 years. We build business critical systems for these people, and they evolve along with us and them, and as they grow. So we have long-term relationships, which is great.
Yeah.
But finding new businesses who, it's not like, we've got to sign outside the door saying we create solutions, because it's not, who are we selling to? Who are our clients? So finding new clients and new business, and people knowing or realizing that they need a company like us to come and solve their technical problems or their systems problems or something like that. So new business has always been a challenge. I think we've survived, 3 recessions and 2 global financial crises, and so 26 years we're still here. But I guess that's always been a challenge. I mean, we've not really had much in the way of churn and staff, because culture is important. These guys wanting to be in the environment they're in. They dovetail in very well together as teams. So we run little pods and bigger pods and stuff like that. I think, the biggest challenge, I think, always has been finding new clients. But new clients come from some of the strangest places. So there's a guy across the road, across the car park here became a client. There's a company that has their manufacturing facilities in my hometown in New Zealand, who just by coincidence became a customer from an introduction from a guy who sells accounting software that I went to school with. And it's just when you sit down, and a lot of the time I'd step away from the business and look at where does the new business come from? What are our verticals? What are our sectors? How do we rinse and repeat and find it? And there's no real rhyme or reason about how these people came across. We took on Coolmore as a customer. I'm not, if you're into horse racing, Coolmore is probably the largest horse breeding establishment in the world, and that came from an ex-flatmate of mine in Wellington 40 years ago. So just these introductions come from nowhere. We ended up doing some work for Coldplay, and that was an introduction from a guy that knocked on my door at the office in Orpington, and he was having problems with his emails. Could we help him? And these sort of all sort of spin down. This sort of, so is there a formula getting new business? There isn't. I mean, sometimes we're very, I would say that we're more reactive than proactive. We're not great marketeers, but we're reactive. Opportunities come along, and they come along from the strangest places. A random conversation on a train somewhere, or at 11 o'clock at night.
As you say, you're obviously doing something right, that you're attracting that new business, and that you've been around for 26 years. You must be doing a lot of things right. So, what's been the biggest learning since you've been in the business? What?
I think I don't think it's since I've been in business, but I think never burn your bridges is probably the greatest, not necessarily learning, but something that I taught as a youngster. Really, you never know where people go, what people say, whatever. You don't have to. You tolerate people, and you don't have to be an arsehole, but never burn your bridges, because you never know what's happening around the door. So that's probably, people have moved from one business to another business, and we've worked with them again. I think that's that. I think, I think we've got quite an important job. People put their businesses in our hands with some of the systems we build, so we do tend to treat them with kid gloves and make sure that everything's right. And so there's the attention to detail and the responsibility that someone else's business and livelihood is in their hands. And I take that on with the guys as well. They've all got mortgages and everything, so it's a very heavy weight that some of us have to bear. I think
that's what you said there is actually those two things linked together, about where your business has come from and never burn your bridges. It demonstrates that the fact that you've had introductions, referrals from people over the years, people that you've known for years ago. I mean, I think that demonstrates that you are a person that doesn't burn your bridges, because people are coming back to you. And I like the fact that what you've sort of said there in terms of how you take responsibility and ownership and accountability for your employees, because they've as you say, you're responsible for paying their salaries, and they have to pay mortgages and all that sort of thing. But also how you take ownership and accountability and responsibility for the clients that you work with. And you can see how important what you do is for them. It's not just another job for you. You understand the value of what you do, and how valuable and important that is to your clients. That's what really stood out to me from what you just sort of said, Brad.
I think Stephen Bartlett. I read Stephen Bartlett's book, and you've got to take ownership of where you are in the world. Yeah. Don't blame anyone else. Stand up, be counted. Being responsible for these people's livelihoods and their businesses and stuff. You have to be responsible. You can't defer or anything like that. So I think, it's fair. I like to joke around, and we're pretty relaxed here, but it is responsibility and being counted and standing up when you're being asked to, I think, is another thing that I've learned.
I think that to me is one of the things that one of the things that actually makes a real difference between a successful business owner and a great leader. It's somebody that takes that ownership, accountability, and responsibility, rather than and the other side of that is blame, excuses, and denial. You know, that they're constantly blaming their team, they're blaming their clients, they're blaming the environment, they're using excuses of why things went wrong or didn't work, or but actually a true leader, a successful business owner to me is somebody that takes ownership, accountability and responsibility. And I think you've demonstrated that really well. And so look, there's one question, Brant, I always like to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me on these discussions, and that's this: what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you?
Look after your hair. No, I don't. I don't think that would have saved it.
At all. I don't.
I don't think that would have saved it. Best advice. I don't know. Just I'm not sure what would I do differently, but I think take the opportunities that come along. I think initially in this business we said yes to a lot of projects that we perhaps shouldn't have. So because as you do when you're a young business, you're just looking to grow the business. Sometimes you should say no, but I think in life, in opportunities, you never know where an opportunity is where it's going to lead you. The people you meet as many people as you can. Have fun doing it. Yeah, I think. Well, my advice, I don't know, really, just enjoy life, and you're only here once. Grab it by the scruff of the neck and have a crack.
I've got, three things that you sort of said there. Take the opportunities that come along, have fun, and meet as many people as you can.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, look, Brant, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business, but also your journey as well. So, thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you, Simon.